I don't want to be like the second best. I don't like losing, So whatever it takes to win, I'm gonna do it. That's the mentality that most Kenyans have.
Dave Bolger here, and welcome to Had I Known, a show that explores the journeys of some of the most interesting members of the Hamilton College community. This week's guest is Peter Kosgei, class of 2011. Hey, welcome back for another one. Or welcome, if you're a first-time listener. And it seems like last week's guest, Manal Ataya, introduced the show to a number of new listeners. So welcome to all of you. Getting a lot of great feedback about my conversation with Manal. She was great, wasn't she? Definitely saw an increase in international listeners with last week's episode. Nice to see our global footprint, our global reach expand. Now heard in 48 countries. If you like what you hear, keep spreading the word. Tell your Hamilton friends, tell your classmates. Tell them that you enjoy a global phenomenon. Worldwide phenomenon. If you want to check out that episode with Manal, or if you want to check out any of our previous episodes, you can get it wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, so on and so on and so on. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can get this show. Or you can go to hadiknown.buzzsprout.com. Again, hadiknown.buzzsprout.com. And you can check us out on social media at Had I Known Show. This week we tell another international story. Peter Kosgei, class of 2011, came to Hamilton from Kenya. And while at Hamilton, he established himself as one of the top runners in the country. And by the time he graduated, he was the most decorated athlete in Hamilton College history. He was a 9-time NCAA national champion, an 11-time All-American, and I think if you open up the Hamilton College cross-country and track and field record books, it's just his picture. I think they've renamed the record book, the Peter Kosgei record book. I really enjoyed talking to Peter about the success he had as a runner while at Hamilton and tried to get into the mind of a truly elite athlete. It was fascinating to hear him talk about the mental aspect of competing at that level. And if you know anything about Peter's story, there's a chance you know about the tragic end to his athletic career at Hamilton. And we get into that during our chat. But through it all, and you'll hear, he came out with a deep love for Hamilton. Similar to last week with Manal, you hear it in this conversation. I mean, loud and clear, you hear the love and passion that Peter has for Hamilton. This man's name has come up several times when I've asked for suggestions on who we should have on as a guest. Hamilton College loves this guy, and it's clear that he very much loves Hamilton back. Hope you enjoy this conversation. Here's Peter Kosgei, class of 2011.
Hey, Dave.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me here.
How are you doing in Ohio?
Ohio is good. We have a winter in the spring.
Well, you're a Hamilton guy. You're used to that.
Yeah. I'm used to upstate New York.
Going for your PhD, is that right?
Yes. So PhD. Yep. Second year.
Okay.
It's going well so far.
And pardon my ignorance, how much longer does that mean you have?
So it's a 5-year program.
5 years. Okay.
Yeah. So I have 3 more years after.
Okay. Still with a focus in chemistry?
Yes, chemistry, analytical chemistry.
And what kind of things are you working on?
So mostly our lab is analytical. So it's an instrument lab. Okay. So we get samples and we analyze like different kinds of things in samples that we get from companies, from collaborators and stuff like that. So
and then what do you think the plan is after this? You stay in academics?
yeah, I think I'm gonna stay in academia.
Okay.
Yeah, probably get into teaching. I like teaching because we are TAs.
And you
So
like that?
yeah, I like it. I mean, I like the interaction with students, and I like the process, seeing the students going from not knowing much to knowing a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never taught, but I for a few years after college, after Hamilton, I
Yeah.
coached high school football, and I gained a new respect and understanding of why people enjoy teaching. Because I remember the first time I think I've told the story before on the show, but I told a kid, the quarterback does this, and you go over here, you can intercept the pass, and then the first time that happened, I was like, I did that. I told him to do that, and it happened, and like how fulfilling that felt,
Yeah, yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah, very cool, very
Yeah,
cool.
it's good.
I also appreciated just, especially at that level, the crap teachers have to deal with in addition to getting people to learn. I
Yeah,
imagine at the level you're at, it's not as much, but still motivating and finding what motivates somebody and finding how somebody learns. Everyone learns in a different way. You got to tap into that a little bit as well.
yeah, exactly. And you get to understand how much patience our teachers went through when they're like new in school and stuff like that.
That's right. That's
It
right.
pushes you a lot.
That's right.
Yeah,
Was chemistry and science always a passion for you?
yeah, it's been a passion. Especially, I went to a all boys high school back in Kenya,
Mm-hmm.
and physics, biology, and chemistry were compulsory throughout the 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I had to take like 4 years of everything, and I kind of leaned towards chemistry because I just loved it.
And what brought you to Hamilton? How did you end up in Clinton, New York?
Oh, I came through a program called Cancer. So the program brings students from underrepresented region of Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly kids from poor backgrounds to get um, admission into like elite colleges in the U.S.
Okay.
So that program is run by John Manners. He's from New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
and he knows about all these colleges. Right? So he knew that I was like a village boy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I would say Hamilton. They say it's in the middle of nowhere. So
It's all relative.
yeah, depending on where you're coming from, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I couldn't imagine myself going from, say, the village to Columbia University in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
New York City. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what was that transition like when you arrived over in the US?
To be honest, for people who know me, it was rough.
Is that right?
Rough. Yeah, it was rough. The first semester, yeah, we had like language barrier.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't understand my professors.
Mm-hmm.
The communication. So I got into like depression. So I had to take a semester off. I don't know if you heard of that.
Okay.
So I took a semester off to get used to American culture and stuff like that.
Had you started and then took a semester off, or did you knew?
No, I started for like a month or so, and then after a month, I couldn't take it anymore.
So what did you do to acclimate yourself during that time?
So I went. There's another Kenyan called Peter Rono. At that time, he used to live in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So Peter Rono was like 1988 Olympic medalist. So he's friends with John Manners. So he was like, "Oh, this guy is struggling at Hamilton. I'm gonna stay with him for the rest of the fall semester."
Okay.
Yeah. So I went to New Jersey, spent time with him, with his family. And he exposed me to all this like American culture, and then I came back in January.
So you came back as a Jersey guy, like, hey, I was in New Jersey. I understand how it works now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I came back in January stronger, I would say.
Okay. And what kind of things do you think you learned that made you better prepared during that time?
Well, I think I was putting too much pressure on myself, and then I wasn't I don't know if it's the right word, externalizing my feelings. I wasn't looking for help.
I see.
Yeah. So, and that's what I found out later, that there was all the help that I needed at Hamilton. It's just that I wasn't like looking for it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna deal with this problem by myself, and then it took me down like really bad.
That's such a life lesson, no matter where you're from or what you do. I work with people in my day job, and I always say if you're having a trouble, come ask for help,
Yes,
and oftentimes that's viewed as showing weakness, when in fact it's a sign of strength to be able to recognize where you're at fault and where to go get help. It's a critical life lesson.
yes, it's very true. So yeah, I learned it the hard way, but it wasn't too late, I would say.
Okay. And then once you got through sort of that initial bump, how was your time at Hamilton? Was the campus welcoming to you?
Yeah, very welcome. I found a lot of help from Hamilton. It was like a really small. I found out like that it is really small community
Yeah.
that everybody knows each other. We just have to speak up. And
Yeah.
then I give a lot of credit to my coaches, my teammates.
Yeah.
Really friendly, and I made a lot of friends
Yeah.
that were really helpful.
And was running the plan all along? Did you know that you would join the track team and be a runner?
Yes, I knew I had the potential to run.
You probably had a big bullseye on your chest as someone from Kenya. They said the track team must have hunted you down immediately, right?
Yeah, well, they start the expectation too. But...
That's true. Well, as I understand it, Peter, you more than lived up to the expectation.
Well, we try. I mean, I like running and I like representing the college.
Yeah. Yeah.
More than that, more than winning titles. Winning titles was the main thing, but that was for the university, the college.
Sure. Yeah. Nine-time national champion. Did I get that right?
Yes, nine times and 11 All-American. So I lost a couple, but
who's counting? What is it about Kenya and runners? There's Kenyan runners, and then there's everybody else. What is it?
Well, that's a big question. It's I don't know. I mean, I can turn that your question into my view about running.
Great.
Yeah, like when I step on the track, I don't want to be like the second best. I don't like losing.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it takes to win, I'm gonna do it. And I think that's the mentality that most Kenyans have.
And when you started running competitively at Hamilton, did it take some time? I don't know. I've played sports where running was a punishment. Long distance running was a punishment. So I have a different mentality when it comes to running. But I imagine there's a strategy to it of where you are, how you stay with the pack, and when you make your move. Are those things that you had to learn, or did you come in with that knowledge already?
No, I didn't know that. Okay. I didn't have that knowledge. So that's why I was telling you that I give credit to my coaches, because I didn't know anything about. In fact, before in that program that I came through, we had to do a time trial, right, in the 1500 meters at high altitude. So they gave us a rabbit, and I didn't know the function of a rabbit or pace setter. So I was like shoulder to shoulder to the pace setter. And John Manas was like, "No, you have to be behind." I didn't know anything about that. So my coaches, Coach Bellona and Coach Hall.
Yep.
You probably know them, right?
I had Coach Bologna on as a guest recently on the show.
Oh, I love him.
And he's a great guy. And I asked him a little bit about you in preparation for this conversation. He sent me a couple good stories about you.
Yeah.
And he talked about this. He talked about the them coaching you on stay at the shoulder of the lead person and you adjusting for that, and then make your move in the last bit. And they said, and then when we saw him make his move, and then he would just blow everybody away.
Yeah. So they are the ones who taught me how to like race strategically. I remember in Coach Hall at Nationals 2008. I think it's Hanover, Indiana. We talked about how to we had like tough competitors from Wisconsin, Oshkosh, Platterfield. So he told me to hit like mile 3 really hard. So when I did that, nobody came with me. And I'm like, they were like, "Oh, this guy is going too fast," He's gonna come back to us. And I never came
Never,
back.
never did.
And then by the time they're like, oh man, we only have like 1 mile. It was too late.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
at some point, if you're that successful in a sport like where you were in running,
yes.
And you're dominating to the point where you take off and then no one's coming to catch you, is it hard to compete, or do you then put the pressure on yourself where you're competing against yourself?
I think you put pressure on yourself to try new things, because that develops a level of confidence in your, say, kicks and stuff like that. So I developed some kind of confidence, and you try new things in races.
Anything you didn't accomplish you wanted to accomplish on the track?
I wish I had won more team titles.
Huh.
That was a lot of people ask me what was your favorite race, and I would say it was a states championship DMR in 2009. So we are trying to qualify for nationals. I think that video is on YouTube. We're trying to qualify for nationals, and then the guy who I used to compete with from RIT, he took a different leg. He took the first leg, and I was in the ankle leg. So when I took the baton, we were like, I think, fourth or fifth, and we brought it home. And that was the highlight of that.
That's great.
I wish we had more of that.
What was the off season like for you, or out of school? Was there more racing and more running, and what was training for you when you were away from campus?
So I spent most of my time on campus. So in the summer, I was doing research with Professor Brewer. In the chemistry. So I was doing all my runs in around Clinton, but Coach Hall gave us like a running plan for the summer.
Got it.
To follow and stuff like that. So, but I'll tell you something, a secret. You see that college hill?
Yeah.
I used to go like all the way from the bottom to I think Bundy.
Yeah.
Dining hall.
Yeah.
A slow pace. Like I would do that like 10 times.
That's not easy.
Yeah, it's not. I think that developed.
I used to get winded walking up that hill, so I can't. That's good training. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. But yeah, so I spent most of my time on campus, and I did like follow Coach Hall's program.
What is this story I've read about you running the Boilermaker in pants?
Yeah, so that was a big story that people still make fun of me. So I showed up. Well, we've been preparing for this race for a while, for the whole summer. Right? And I usually use the Boilermaker as endurance run, but obviously I give my best. So they start. I got the privilege of getting into the elite tent. So I take my running gear separately, then warm up before changing into my shorts and my jersey or whatever. So apparently I forgot my shorts, and I had just like a nylon warm-up kit. So 5 minutes before the race, I was like, oh my God, I forgot my shorts. So and I was like, I don't have time to go back, and I won't abandon the race because of playing all this summer for it. I ran with my pants.
And then how'd you finish in that one?
I think I was like 25th.
Okay.
Yeah, it was rough, but and that's one of the things that separates the rest of the world with from Kenyans. Us, we can endure, well, at least for me, I can endure pain for a long time. So I was like, I'm gonna tough it out. It doesn't really matter, but so long as I'm not collapsing.
Just another challenge to overcome.
Just another challenge.
At some point, it's far more mental than it is physical.
It is, and I'll tell you, in some races, I haven't told anybody this. in some races, I was feeling the pain,
Mm.
And there were like a couple of, especially in cross country, I was thinking to myself, I wish you knew that I was hurting, like thinking out loud to my competitors that if you don't drop me here, forget about this race, you won't win. But of course, they were not in my thoughts like them.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, it is mental. I remember in one of the indoor nationals, I had like a knee problem. That time I was like doubling 800 and the mile. So I had done the mile, and then about 90 minutes later, I was coming in for the 800, but my knee was like giving up on me. So, um, so Coach Bellona told me, look, you don't have to do the 800, you know, and that's we usually have like a month. So I told Coach Bellona, look, I have nothing else to uh, to hold back, right? Whether I do it or not. So I told him, no, I'm gonna tap it out. But I wasn't living during the race. But the last lap, I just gave it all and still won. So yeah, it is mental.
And what is it that is it just you lock yourself into a different zone, or you shut a part of your brain off, or what? How do you overcome sort of that mental aspect of powering through when the pain is setting in?
Wow, that's tough question. I think you lock yourself into the mental state that you want to win. It comes down to who wants it more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if you're okay being second, then that's a different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
If you're okay with being fourth or whatever, that's a different thing. But and the pain is temporary.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you have to remember.
So you mentioned the sort of the mental trash talking almost you would do with opponents that they couldn't hear.
Yes.
Are there elements to whether it's body language or how you make a move or what you do pre-race? Is there any sort of gamesmanship to get a little bit of that?
Yes. So yeah, that's a good question. So mostly, especially in cross country, I would do like a couple of searches in between, like 100 yards. Just open up and then just relax. Let everybody come, catch up. So those searches, whoever is coming with you, is gonna get burned out. Because you go in searches. So, and that's to some runners, they don't like that change in pace. They want like an even pace, and I hear that a lot in training. So they want to focus on like, I want to get into an even pace. For me, it's good to have an even pace, but you have to be prepared for something else. If things go wrong, somebody's like throwing in sergeant and stuff like that, you don't have to get sucked into that mental torture that somebody's like torturing you by doing all that. So when I used to do that, it gets into the nerves of my competitors.
Right. As you started to make a name for yourself and became known as the sort of the one with the target and everyone was trying to overcome as the champion, would people try and do that to you?
I guess it was more of can we hang on and try to outkick this guy rather than play, because, and I'm not trying to be cocky or whatever.
Sure.
But you do that when you have some level of confidence in yourself. So, but if you are doubting yourself in relation to someone else whom you think is better than you, then you don't try something crazy. Yeah, it's better to like keep everything simple.
Sure.
And hope that something goes wrong.
How early on did you realize that you were, a force to be reckoned with in your time in Hamilton?
It was the spring semester when I came back from that spread.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to qualify for nationals in school chase.
How come?
Because I was scared of racing at higher level. And Coach Hall would attest to that. But Every time we went from, say, invitationals to NASCARs to states championships, my steeplechase times got faster and faster and got me into qualifying for nationals. But I didn't want to qualify for nationals, but at the same time, I didn't want to lose. So at the end of the day, I ended up qualifying for nationals.
Yeah.
Because, I didn't want to lose.
You didn't want to lose.
But then when I went to nationals, I was a freshman. I had no experience with the steeplechase. I know that that's a Kenyan event.
I was gonna. So I read that. I hadn't heard that until I was doing a little bit of research on you. Why is that a Kenyan event? Just because the dominance of Kenyans in that event?
The dominance since 1960s Olympics. Yeah. So, and that brings that mental thing again that we are not going to lose these.
Well, now it becomes a sense of pride that that's your event, and if you're a Kenyan, you can't lose that event. Yeah.
Yes.
Is that your favorite event?
Yeah, that was my favorite event. Yeah.
So, and for those that don't know, steeplechase has a mixture of a little bit of a hurdle and there's some water involved. Is that right?
Yes. 5 barriers that are hard to you hit it, you go down yourself.
Right. They're not the hurdles that fall with you if you fall. These are solid barriers.
Yeah. So at nationals, I was just hanging on to the last lap, and then in the last 300 meters, I put in a surge, and nobody responded. And I think there was an Hamilton walking in that stadium when they announced, "Oh, Peter Kosgei from Hamilton College." He came out like, "What?" Yeah, that's when I knew that I had, and I think it put me into the limelight of racing from there.
And on your way to becoming the most decorated athlete in Hamilton College history.
Well, that's relative, but I appreciate the compliment.
No, it's true. It's incredible. My rugby team won 2 state championships, Peter. So, there's some hardware over here on this side of the screen too,
Yeah, it's something to be proud of.
We could have used you on the rugby pitch. Could have used you running. So off the track, back on campus, when you come back and you're getting acclimated, what was your impression of being in the U.S. and being in upstate New York?
Yeah, well, first thing, I arrived in late August, and I thought it was cold. And someone told me, "No, if you think it's cold, you're in big trouble." Yeah. So, but when winter came, the good thing about winter is that it's gradual. But then I had to deal with that cold of January and February. It was tough. And
it's a different kind of cold. It's a different, even for me, I grew up in the Northeast, but going up there, I remember walking, because I went to visit in the middle of winter and there was snow on the ground and it was cold. So I knew what I was getting myself into. And the way I explain it is when you would breathe in through your nose and you'd feel things crystallize inside your nose. I was like, oh, that's cold.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you start, your ears.
That's right.
Freezing and stuff like that.
That's right. Yeah.
But one thing I wasn't expecting is how rural Hamilton is. Because the impression that we get in Africa is that America is all city. So I was surprised to see cows on Griffin Road.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see corn. But
did you get to explore the country much when you in those days? Did you get to go to cities and experience more of the country?
Yes, especially with my running. So I had to travel the Midwest. Mostly for running. But I visited some friends. Like I went to Albuquerque at one point to train at high altitude. That's it. But I didn't stay out there for long.
And then I know that your running career at Hamilton ended on a down note with an unfortunate incident that happened back in Kenya. Can you talk a little bit about what happened?
Yes. So my dad passed away in January 2011. So that was in the middle of a semester. So I couldn't take the semester, days off. So I waited until spring break. The funeral was in sometime in January. So I went home in spring break to spend time with family and stuff. So my parents live in the village, but my aunt lives in town, a city, and I was staying with my aunt. So I went
in Nairobi or somewhere else.
No, somewhere else. It's called
Okay,
Eldoret.
got it.
Yes. So I went to the village to visit my mom, and then I came back in the evening to where my aunt was in the city. So I was walking through the streets. I was naive of the dangers of Eldoret because I had been in the US for like 5 years at that time. So I was walking through the streets. I took like a dark aisle, you know. I was going to the bus station, and then all of a sudden, these people came from nowhere, hit me with something, and I blacked out. So I lost consciousness. Yeah, and then that was that was that was unfortunate.
Yeah.
But after that, I don't remember anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then woke up to some pretty severe injuries and
yes, I woke up in the pain. I didn't have any shoes, no jacket, whatever. I only had like my jeans and t-shirt. So they took everything.
Unbelievable. And then, as I understand, bad enough to go through all of that, but you still, I guess at that point it would have been easy to just sort of give up a little bit, but you were determined to get back to Clinton. And it's not like it's a short ride or an easy trip to get from Kenya back to Clinton, New York, especially with both legs in casts.
Yeah, so that was rough. That was rough. And I really, really appreciate that's what I love about Hamilton College. The concern. So when I talked to I think Regina Johnson. So they arranged for like a wheelchair transition between airports. To make sure that I got on campus. I've never felt so safe. Being like, in fact, when I left, when Kenya is my home country, right. But after that incident, I felt so traumatized that I needed to get away. That my family, which is Hamilton College, needed to come for me, and they came for me.
Wow.
So, so when I broke the news to Carol Drogas, so she arranged for all the transportation, and like I said, I felt so home, landing at Syracuse Airport.
Yeah,
they picked me up at the airport.
That's great.
And I think like I said, I had that trauma that I was like, oh man, it's like I'm home.
Then on top of that, the pressure of finishing school and, you were, a world-class runner and now you can't do that anymore. Hard to deal with all that at once as a young man, I imagine.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's especially you want to graduate because time was running, right? We had to graduate in May, and thank God I was in like a small college that my professors really helped me because they brought and my teammates too. They used to visit me at St. Luke's Hospital, and Dr. Jim was a great guy.
So you came back still needed more time in the hospital. So they brought you back here and then sent you to St. Luke's.
Yeah, so they didn't do anything in Kenya. So they just put like a cast on my legs and my arm. So when I arrived at Hamilton, we have Dr. Jim. I don't know if you know Dr. Jim.
No.
Yeah, Dr. Jim works with the athletic department.
Okay.
With the runners and stuff. So he looked at, he took an X-ray of my legs, and he was like, "No, there's no way you can recover completely with this." So he scheduled like an emergency surgery to put like metal plates right here.
What? Wow.
Yeah, and my leg.
And your legs. Wow.
So everything was done here. So once I arrived, Dr. Jim took over. They took me to St. Luke Hospital. They scheduled a surgery for me.
Yeah, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the mental ability to overcome pain, like we talked about before, must have had to kick in big time for you to be able to get yourself from Kenya with just casts that weren't sufficient to the U.S.
Yes.
So you were dealing with that sort of the mental part of overcoming pain still then.
Yes, the mental strength to like get back to
Wow.
school, and being cramped in that small chair in the plane, was rough.
Wow. Wow. And then, so then you were deprived of your last semester of running at school. Was the plan before the injuries to go off and do more running after Hamilton?
Yes, in fact, I still have like new cleats, like spikes, that I bought before going to Kenya, and I used only once. We have like 1 week before Christmas
Mm-hmm.
for indoor season, so I used it only once, and I still have them in my house back in Kenya. I didn't use it because I was planning to like finish my career
Yeah.
on a high note at Hamilton.
And then were you looking to compete after college?
Yeah, I was thinking about going into like professional races, but not like competing professionally,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
just racing. But I wanted to do more schoolwork.
And how are you? So that many years later, how have you healed? Are you able to run now?
Yeah, yeah. So that graduation was in surgery was in March. So and graduation was in May. By June, July, I was able to run a little bit. But 2012, I was racing. I did the
Okay.
Binghamton half marathon in 2012.
Okay. And
Yeah.
still smoking everybody.
Oh, yeah, I won, but
See, that's the part of the story that needs to get told. I can't find that part of the story, but that's the happy ending of you're beating everybody again. That's
yeah.
fantastic.
So yeah, I came back in 2012, and only the guy who was like coaching me at that time knew that I had like metal plates on my leg and my arm, and was still racing.
So you need to go show everybody the scars before the race starts and say, see that you're gonna get beat by a guy with with a
You're
plate in his
gonna,
leg.
you're gonna get beat by this cripple. Yeah.
So for context, at the height of your powers at Hamilton, you were running a mile. How fast?
So the open mile was like 4 or 7. Yeah.
Okay.
But
And
I
where are
think
you? And where are you now?
no, I don't even know.
No.
Yeah,
410.
yeah. It's going from trying to run fast to trying to stay fit.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
age is a factor too.
Okay. So you like teaching. You had developed a real appreciation for your coaches. Is there
Yes.
any coaching in your future? Do you coach running at all?
Yeah, I would love to.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, and I've told it like several times, I would like to go back to Clinton area,
Mm.
And I would like to coach at the at Hamilton
At
area.
Hamilton, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, or just help with volunteer coaching and stuff like that.
Well, I as an alum who they have to listen to our voice as alums, I wholeheartedly endorse that. And this is going to air on WHCL and has a big Hamilton following. So anyone listening, there you go.
Yeah.
Hire the man. 3 more years. The PhD's done, and then
Yes.
okay.
3 more years. But then I would have to be like a resident to do that, because we have like student fees and stuff like that. So in future now, when I'm a resident, then I can do whatever I want, you know. But then I guess volunteer is not part of that. It's not part of the restriction.
Yeah.
So I can
Yeah.
still volunteer.
I see.
But yeah, I would love to go back to Clinton and spend some time, even if it's teaching at at Hamilton College. I would be glad to do that. Yeah.
Do you go back to Kenya much?
Not quite. I came back in 2019,
Mm-hmm.
so I haven't been back since. So I would have to tell you what I did after Hamilton College, because after Hamilton College, I wanted to get a postgraduate degree.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Binghamton University for PhD. But then after 2 years, I realized that I needed some break. So from school, so I took a master's in 2013, and then I went back to Kenya for about 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and then in Kenya I was teaching at the university as a assistant lecturer or something like that in the Department of Chemistry in my town.
Was there any reverse sort of culture shock of having spent so much time in the U.S. then come back to Kenya? Was there an adjustment period there?
Yes, a lot. So after being here for a while, you find most of the things is very slow. It's very slow and inefficient. That's part of the culture shock that I had when I went back. And then one thing, and I don't mean to speak ill of the university, but there's the academic system is not as transparent as here. Students work hard. The university I was teaching at, one of my students was involved in academic dishonest. So the student got an F, right? So the student got an F, but then 2 months later, the student graduated. It was the last semester of that student.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like trying to follow this student to make sure that he fails, but I was trying to find out the truth. So I was like, how did this student graduate and yet he got an F? So they are like, oh, he got the supplementary exams. And I was like, can I see the exam? They're like, oh, someone else has a key and he's not here. But look, forget about it, man. These things happen. So apparently the student paid someone in the examination office to get the grade.
Yeah.
And I told them, look, I've been through a different system and I can't deal with this.
Yeah, interesting.
I cannot be part of, like fraudulent ways of acquiring a degree.
Right.
So I quit that job and I applied for grad school.
Yeah, that is not the Hamilton way.
Yeah, exactly. I was like,
I've seen friends go through it. Boy, wow.
Yeah.
And then you came back here and been pursuing the advanced degrees since.
Yes, yeah. So I came back in 2019 and I've been doing trying to get back into school again. I've been out for too long. You know how that feels when you be out for too long. You have like children and stuff like that.
Sure.
Get yourself. Yeah, I'm hanging in there for 3 more years and be done. Hopefully something's gonna open at Hamilton College when I graduate.
We're gonna make sure of it. We're gonna use the alumni network to make sure that they bring you back. Yeah. So thinking about your time coming from Kenya to the U.S. and you're stepping foot on that campus, looking back, is there anything you wish you had known?
Wow, that's a tough. I wish I had known more of like the help that is there. So that help is out there. That you just have to speak up. That one. We were still pioneers in that program that I came through. But nowadays, students come in in the summer to prepare them for the fall semester. But I didn't get that chance. I came in like 2 weeks, even like a week before the start of the classes, and then right like that.
Wow.
So I didn't. Yeah, I wish I had known that there's more network of like help at the university, because I was used to that mentality of what do you call individual work back in Kenya. That's like in high school you have to do everything by yourself. So I wish I had known that there was help out there.
Anything we didn't cover that you were hoping to cover in telling your Hamilton story?
Well, not really. It's just that they say, I know this is a cliche, that when you go through like a big university, you go through it, but when you go through a small college, it goes through you. You know, familiar with that? Yeah, but I love Hamilton College with like my whole heart. You know, I wish I would have stayed there for another 10 years, just being with the Hamilton College community. I would say something else that nobody knows.
Okay.
That I have a son. He's 1.5 years now.
Congratulations.
Yes. And his name, can you guess what his middle name is? Hamilton. So Brilliant Hamilton Kosgei, in honor of Hamilton College.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. How's life as a student with a little one?
Yeah, well, they're back at home in Kenya.
Got it.
So it's not. I just talked to them on Zoom, but hopefully I'm gonna bring them here. Hopefully this year.
Oh, good.
And I hope to take them to Hamilton College to
There you go.
to represent.
There you go. Well, look, you get the job at Hamilton, and then your son goes for free.
And then he has to fill the big shoes, I would say.
That's right. That's exactly right. He's got to go for 10 national championships.
10, yes, more.
All right, that's Peter Kosgei, class of 2011. One follow-up note about Peter getting his family here to the U.S. If you're listening in and around the Akron, Ohio area, and you know anyone in need of a CPA, Peter's wife will be looking for work when she comes over here. So let's use the power of the Hamilton Network to help the man out and get his family settled here in the U.S. You can reach out to me at hadiknownshow@gmail.com, and we'll put you in touch with Peter if you have any way to help the man out. And then at some point when he's finished with his PhD, we're going to have to rally together and get him hired back at Hamilton. And I got to tell you, since I've had the conversation, I've laughed several times thinking about the moment in that chat where he's telling the story of his recovery from his injuries. And I tell you, if you Google Peter's name, the story of his brutal attack and how awful it was, and what a terrible experience it was for him to lose out on his final running season, which of course it's terrible. There's little written about his recovery. So, and he says, and then, in 2012, I ran a half marathon. And how'd you do? Well, I won. Plates in his legs. Still a world-class runner. My thanks to Peter for joining. It was a pleasure talking to him, and wish him nothing but the best as he continues to work towards his PhD. You have been listening to Had I Known on WHCL-FM, Clinton, New York. HadIKnown.buzzsprout.com. Had I Known Show on social media. As always, my thanks to Dr. Michael Woods for supplying the music on this show. And once again, Doc is going to play us out. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you next week.
Had I Known podcast show on your radio or take it to go.